It's turtle time. Welcome to the Geeks Attic. It's time to talk about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles issue number 3, The Great Chase. I read it from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Ultimate Collection volume number 1. This thing's pretty easy to find, a lot easier to find than the original comic books themselves. Issue number 3, The Great Chase, by Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird, printed in March of 1985. So what we're going to do is go into a spoiler-heavy overview, going to talk about the whole thing, step by step, what happened, and then afterwards we'll go into my overall thoughts. So let's go ahead and dive into that spoiler-heavy overview. The four turtles see to it that April has made it safely back above ground on the city streets, the chaos of New York City. The events of issue 2 were pretty crazy. Now April, she's happy to be alive. She's thankful for the turtles. She helped save the day. They helped save the day against the Mousers, who were just tearing up the underground, knocking buildings down, robbing banks, all sorts of crazy nonsense. Now April tells the turtles that they need to be careful because pretty soon the underground is going to be crawling with cops and repair crews. Now she writes down her phone number on a little piece of paper and gives it to them, letting them know that if they ever need any help, to give her a call. Well, the turtles make their way back home, and when they reach the front entrance, they notice a little hole in the wall. This doesn't look good. They quickly barge in to find broken Mauser's blood and a huge mess. What they don't find is Master Splinter. And Raphael begins to freak out, his rage takes over, and he wishes he would have killed Baxter when he had the chance. Now the others try to calm him down. Leo assigns tasks for everyone, but Raphael ignores him and takes off, shouting that he's going to go find Splinter on his own. And this is just a horrible idea. Splinter's gone, Raphael is gone. Why split up? Just makes things a lot more difficult. A little time goes by before the turtles go out looking for Raphael. They actually had to go up above ground because the cops and workmen did indeed overrun the tunnels, just like April warned them. Now before they could really begin their search, luckily Raphael finds them. He apologizes for his outburst, and then they go find a payphone and give April a call. I want to know where they got the change for that. Leonardo asks if she has a car. She says, yes, actually, I have a van. Now she writes down the address of where the gang's hiding out, that she drives out to meet them. And when she shows up, the turtles pile up in the van, and April asks, where's Splinter? And then they tell her the sad story about, what they went home to. And they also tell her that, hey, there was no body, so the search must take place. We've got to find Splinter. And April assures them that she will do as much as she possibly can to help out. So then they start to drive off towards April's house, and everything starts to go wrong. She passes by a police car, and we go into the interior of that police car, where a cop tells his partner, hey, that van fits the description of a vehicle that was used in a robbery just 20 minutes ago. Let's get it. The cops begin to chase down April's van, and that's when the conflict hits hard within April. She can't pull over with the turtles inside, but she doesn't really want to break the law either. So, what does she do? She floors it. A high-speed chase is now taking place in the streets of New York. They fly through the streets. April loses the cops when the cop car crashes into another vehicle. Just as they thought they were free, another cop car is on them. April is driving like a maniac on the streets, through a park, back on the streets again, trying to lose the cops. Suddenly, she swerves in front of another VW bus, because that's what she's driving, one of those cool Volkswagen vans, and it causes that other driver to lose control and begin to flip over. April uses this opportunity to swerve down an alley, and the cops that were following her crash into that other VW bus, and another squad car pulls up behind that and says, all right, we got him. Well, 3 guys crawl out of that busted up VW bus that was tipped over to be surrounded by cops. And these guys were actually who the cops were looking for in the first place. April and the turtles get away, and the guys who committed that robbery that started this whole chase have been caught. April pulls up in front of her place. A big sign above the door says second time around. April lets the turtles in, letting them know that she's the only one living in the building for now. Sadly, her father recently had a stroke and now has to live in a nursing home. When they settle in, she's headed off to the kitchen and asks, hey, does anybody want something to drink? And one of the turtles says, I'll have a beer. And then when she turns around to ask the others what they would like, all of them had fallen fast asleep, exhausted from the recent day's event. The end. But not really, because there's an epilogue. Now we get to some weird stuff. We have this overhead shot of Master Splinter lying in a puddle of nasty water on top of some trash. Now he's in the tunnels. Then there's a flashback of him sitting in the hideout reading. Then the Mousers burst into the room. Splinter defends himself against the biting Mousers. He knows he's got to clear out. Being trapped in a tight room isn't ideal if more of these things show up, especially being a rat. So he gets out into the tunnels and he hears more coming. Splinter needs to get away from these coming Mousers, but they catch up very quickly. He's surrounded. He tries to get away, tries to jump over them, but bumps his head, and it causes him to slow way down. Suddenly, the Mousers turn and run in the opposite direction. In issue number 2, Baxter reprogrammed the Mousers to return to Baxter's lab as part of the self-destruct plan. So that lines up with some events from issue number 2. Pretty cool. Splinter's desperately crawling forward to put distance between himself and the Mousers. Then he passes out. He wakes up, dazed. A noise startles him. He starts to think the Mousers, oh no, they're coming back. But it's not. 2 people enter the tunnels, both wearing TCRI uniforms. Well, they see Splinter lying on the ground, and one of them says, "Observe, another half-dead rodent." Then the other guy says, "Apparently that Stockman person's plan wasn't completely successful." Then the other guy pulls up a weapon, points it over at Splinter. They have a conversation about whether or not they should blast it. And then Splinter speaks up and says in a painful, raspy voice, "No, don't shoot." The TCRI guys are pretty shocked by a giant speaking rat, so they decide to just go ahead and help him. Then we go over to the TCRI building, and a group of men are standing over Splinter, checking his vitals. They're good. He's on the mend. Great. The group leaves Splinter to heal and rest alone. And one of the guys says, "I must get out of this suit. It's killing me." Several hours pass. Splinter wakes up and he realizes he's been caught. He starts to pull off all the wires and, the cables attached to him and climbs out of the bed he was in. He makes his way out of the room and down a hallway. He turns a corner and exclaims, "By the souls of my ancestors!" And a look of complete shock covers his face. In the room, the human bodies have these blank expressions on their faces, and their upper body cavities were actually opened up, and brain-like aliens were sitting on the table drinking from cups with straws. The human bodies were just alien robot suits. And that is how we ended issue number 3, The Great Chase. Now let's go ahead and talk about a character. I usually like to pick one and talk about them before we get into my overall thoughts. So this time we're going to talk about April. I think she's a good woman. She went out of her way to help the Turtles. During this high-speed chase to the city, it could have gone really bad. The Turtles could have been exposed and April would have gone to jail. She's a good person, and she proved herself loyal to the Turtles once again. We learn of her father, which is really sad, had a stroke recently. Now he has to live at home, so she lives by herself. I can't wait to see what else we get with April, what she gets to do with the Turtles, because we saw in issue number 2 that she helped save the day. She helped Donatello hack the code, hack the system to stop the Mousers. So I'm looking forward to getting more April and the other gang in the coming issues. So for my overall thoughts, did I think this issue was as good as the previous? Well, yes and no. While the first 2 issues were gripping at the beginning to end, this one was just a little bit tedious with the whole car chase thing. It kind of dragged on a little bit too long, in my opinion. I know that the authors mentioned in the annotation sections that they were really looking forward to doing a big chase scene, and they're happy with it. That's good. But for me, it was a good issue, not the greatest. What saved the issue for me and made it just as mind-blowing as everything else that I did read was that daggum epilogue. I actually said out loud to myself, I know that the look on my face probably matched what Splinter had on his in the comic book. I said out loud, I was like, what? No freaking way. I mean, this issue really threw a curveball, and I did not see it coming at all. That's what's so great about diving into these older comics that I don't know anything really about. I love how different this original story is from the film, and whatever happened in the cartoons, don't really remember much from the cartoons, but the film, the 1990 film, I love that one, or 1991, doesn't matter, but this comic book continuously blowing my mind. Do I recommend that you pick up and read the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles issue number 3, The Great Chase? Yes. So get your hands on the Ultimate Collection Volume 1, where you can get issues number 1 through 7 and a one-shot. So, yeah, wow. I give issue number 3 an A+ because of that epilogue. If it wasn't for the epilogue, probably would have given it maybe a C+. But Epilogue brings it up there, that shocker at the end. Wow. I love it. Can't wait to see what we get in the next issue, which is actually not issue number 4. Yep, just had to check. Next time we meet at Turtle Time, we discuss the Raphael one-issue micro series. So that's awesome. Like I said, click the link down below if you would like to get this Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles The Ultimate Collection Volume 1. It's awesome. You won't regret it. Check me out at thegeeksaddict.com. Find me across all social media at thegeeksaddict. Cowabunga.